Welcome to Atlanta and the next step for MBT. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Campbell.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, the plan is that since this is about kind of where we're going and new things that are going on, and what I like to try to do in these talks is actually say something different, in the talk, because most of you have seen the videos and it's the same material basically over. So every time I do one of these talks, I try to add kind of the new stuff that's coming up that I haven't talked about before. And that's going to take me a few hours. Hopefully I'll get it in before lunch, but if not, it'll maybe run just a little bit over beyond that. And then the rest of the day, until we have to go because of a dinner schedule, we'll have Q&A, and it'll just be open about anything. Anything you want to talk about is fine on the, anything on the table. And I encourage you, don't be concerned about asking the hard questions. Okay? Don't be concerned about being polite or not asking a question that maybe is like, how do you why do you think you know all this? That's okay. That's a fine question. So just whatever. If it's a real question, if it's a sincere question, then ask it. Okay, so there isn't anything that's off the table that you shouldn't really talk about. So that's important. Sometimes people feel a little intimidated to only ask polite, nice questions. Well, they're all polite as long as they're sincere, you see, then it'll be fine. All right, first thing, we're going to talk about the binaural beats. Many of you, probably not all of you, but many of you already got these binaural beats. They were sent to the people who were going to attend this workshop. So most of you have it. But since you've gotten them, there's been some additions to them, so you may want to go, pick up those additions. All right, binaural beats. I want to talk about these a little because we got so much questions about them. When we first put them out for sale, there were just lots and lots of people saying, okay, what do we do with them? What are they? How do they work? Which one should I listen to? First of all, the binaural beat isn't going to force any kind of a mental state on you, right? The binaural beat is simply an aid to help you create a theta state. A theta state is we call the brainwave state. Put an EEG on your head and it measures the electromagnetic energy that your brain's creating that comes in various frequencies. And the alpha state's a very relaxed state. The beta state is probably what you're in now. That's awake, paying attention. Then you have, below alpha, you have a theta state. The theta state is really mellow and getting close to the delta state, which is the last one, and that's unconscious, like you are when you're asleep. So theta is just before you lose consciousness, and just up to the point where you're just very relaxed and mellow. So that's the state that we want to encourage, and that's the state that these binaural beats drive. And the way a binaural beat works is that you get a pure frequency, a pure sine wave in one headphone. So you have to wear headphones with these. If you just put them on through the speakers, they'll still work a little bit, but not nearly as powerfully. So you have to wear a headset. So you put one pure tone in one ear, say 100 hertz frequency, and then in the other ear you put in a tone that's a little different, say 104 hertz frequency. What'll happen is that those two tones will go in through your auditory nerve, and at the corpus callosum, which is where the two halves of the brain meet. That's that cross-wiring of the brain. At the corpus callosum, those two signals will mix, and when they mix, you'll actually hear the beat sound. Okay, so you're not really hearing beats with your auditory, you're actually hearing those beats because they're generated inside the center of your brain. And that's why they drive brain waves. By driving brain waves, it means it encourages your brain to settle into that state, but that's a theta state, around 4 hertz. So that's how the binaural beats work. This was something that was kind of uncovered late 60s, early 70s as far as the technology went. Right? So that's how they work. Now I've done, well, I'll tell you about exactly how I made these, but that's what's going on with you. Now a lot of what you get out of a binaural beat has to do with what you bring to it. It's not so much that it's going to do something to you as it's a kind of a helper to help you do something yourself. Now, when I gave these to the workshops, and I did 2 workshops, one in August and one in November at TMI, and I'll tell you which beats came from which in a little bit. There were people who would listen to a sound and they'd say, wow, I really didn't like that. That was just grating on my nerves. It was unpleasant. And I'd put that same sound back in 3 days later, and some of the people who really disliked it thought it was the best sound that they had heard, out of the whole session. They really loved it the next time. It has to do with them. After having been there for 3 days into this program, they were pretty mellow. They were pretty relaxed. They were, into this sort of thing. And then it was a totally different experience for them. It went from awful to terrific. So just because something doesn't work for you today doesn't mean it isn't going to work for you tomorrow. Okay, so I kind of covered what you get from it's mostly dependent on you. You should try to let go of the tapes or let go of the binaural beats eventually, but use them as long as you need them. Don't get into a thing like, well, I've been using these things for a month now. I ought to, not need them anymore. Not so. As long as you get something valuable out of them, use them. But eventually, when it gets you're familiar with it, it's working good, you get in that state really quickly, then try it once without them. It'll be harder. Struggle with it a little bit. Spend a couple of weeks working at it without them. And if it just then doesn't quite click for you, go back to using them. You see, and keep doing that. So just every once in a while, see what you can do without them. Because it's a lot better to be able to get into this state on your own, by yourself, whenever you want to, because it's not always convenient to be playing tunes and having a headset on. And you don't want to be dependent on them. You want to be able to do this on your own, naturally. Another issue is that they will put you in that theta state and hold you in that theta state. And that's not necessarily the state that's just going to be most efficient for you for whatever it is you're trying to do. So eventually, if you go without them, you'll find your own place that works best for you. And it may not be exactly where this is driving you. So that's the other reason why eventually it's better to just do it on your own. But if you're not a great meditator and you haven't been doing it for years and it's not a really natural thing for you to let your mind just go and have no noise, no chatter, then these binaural beats will really help. They'll be a nice help to get you to be able to do that. We had, when I was at Monroe, we had some Buddhist monks come through that just came to see Bob, and we said, oh, yeah, listen to our tapes and so on. And the comments we got back was that they felt that these sounds immediately put them in a space that it took them decades to accomplish on their own. Of course, they were ahead in the much that they could accomplish it on their own, right? They weren't, they didn't have to have the tapes. But they were very impressed with the degree to which this would put them into a very productive altered state of consciousness. So I think they work for most people, but they're not going to make you do anything. Not going to force it. All right, we'll talk a little bit later about that. The one last thing here is that if you want to know how to get the most out of these, there's going to be 6 videos from the discussions that I had at TMI in the November session. 3 of them are already out. 2 have been out for about a week, and the 3rd one just got put out yesterday or the day before. So eventually there'll be all 6, and we talk about the things that you can do while you're in these altered states and what it means and how to approach it and so on. So that would be kind of the optimal way to learn what to do with your binaural beats, is to listen to those 6 when they get out. Okay, how do you make them? I made these from a site on the internet. It's free. There's several sites on the internet that are free, and there's other sites on the internet that will make them for you for a fee. But the free ones are just as good. Actually, this site I like a lot because it gives you a lot of control over what you make. Its site's called Gnarl with a G, Gnarl, at soundforge.net. And when you get there, you'll find these buttons at the top of the page. So that's the top of the page that is at this Gnarl site. Go to this, project pages, and underneath that you'll see a how-to guide. I didn't find that until after I was all done. You know, I didn't necessarily look at these, but I did later after I was done find it. So you don't need to do that. You can figure it out just by playing with it. But it's not completely easy, but you get to pick the bass frequency, the beat frequency, the volume, and then you can move those things up. You can make them go up and down and slide them around any way you want to. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I did it. Okay. All right, these are what were in the program. This is what you got. The two new ones that you didn't get if you got these a month ago or so were these two 1024s. I had those sounds, I just didn't use them. There just wasn't time to put everything in. Okay, so those now have been added. 1024 with and without the pink. But you can see there's kind of more of them here than there was in August, but that's the whole set. We had a much longer string here than we had in the others. This one gets down to 32, and I should mention that if you use this one, you need to have good quality headset. When you run this, it's buzzy and noisy. When it gets down to that lower frequency, that's because your headset just can't make a tone at 32 hertz. It's too low. A lot of headsets won't do that. So it really should be a very soft, mellow, smooth tone. And if yours isn't, it's probably your headset. We had that at TMI. There were 3 or 4 people that got terrible audio out of it because their headsets were old and just didn't work very well. So it shouldn't sound terrible. It should sound very smooth and mellow sound. It's a very low frequency sound for our hearing. Also, there's no pink noise with those because with those very low frequencies, the pink noise starts to dominate and actually get in the way instead of being in the background. Whereas at the higher frequencies, like at the 512 or the 1024, the pink noise is kind of tones it down a little bit, makes it a little softer, so it's not quite so intense, the tone. So you can try these with or without the pink, all the various frequencies. Some of these are strings of frequencies where the bass frequency drops. This is a long string, and I guess I'll tell you about that a little later too. Changes. January 22, we sat down and altered these a little bit. There was one file, that was the name of it, so some of you will have that one. That was really redundant. All of the files for November had a 2 hertz signal in them. So it wasn't just this one and it got removed. They all had that, and there was another one that didn't have this name, so it was just a redundant. You had the same file in there twice. We got rid of that one. Okay, and those 2 that were added were the 2 1024s. Also, at that time, we separated the files into 2 groups, the ones that were MP3s from the ones that were WAV. And here's the difference. A WAV file is not a compressed file. It's, well, not compared to the MP3. The MP3 is very compressed, which means it's very small. It's not really very small, it's big, but it's 1/5 as big as the WAV file. So when you're downloading these are in the gigabit range for downloading. It's a serious download. It'll take some time. Your MP3s will download 5 times faster, or they'll use up 5 times less data when you download them. And for most people, the value of the audio is just as good. An MP3 is a good sound. If you really are an audiophile and you want all the bits that you can get, that's important, then do the WAV files because they have more information in them. Well, 5 times more information in them. So most people won't notice the difference between the 2. But some people have MP3 players. Most people have MP3 players. They're portable players. It kind of goes everywhere. not as many would have the WAV files. But some people don't have MP3 players and they only do their sound on their computer, and their computer doesn't do MP3s, it just does waves. So that's why I did both. Okay, next slide. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the design and how I did these. Notice the little thing up here that says if you let it, you have to not listen to these with your intellect. Okay? If you listen to them with your intellect and say, oh, okay, I can hear it slipping down to that 2 hertz now. Oh, okay, there's the spike, you know, and you start picking it apart and listening to it that way, it's not going to have any effect. In other words, you won't be cooperating with the process of getting into a theta state. So you just have to let it be what it is. And I know this will be difficult, and you left brain folks will want to throttle me, because I'm going to tell you that you have to listen to it at the being level, not at the intellectual level. Okay? The being level is what you are at the very core of your being. Your intellectual level is what you analyze and judge, and you know, and most of us think of that as our thinking part. Okay. There are 2 different levels. These, you just experience it. Might be a little trite, but you could say, become one with the sound. You know, it's just there. You're there. You let it come in. You experience it. You let it go. Whatever it does is okay. If it does nothing, that's okay. If it does something, that's okay. No expectations. Just experience it and let it be in the background. Okay. So I made these with a lot of range in them, a lot of different things. Why I did so many is because everybody's different. I have no idea which one of these things is going to be the best one for you. And even if you find the one that's best for you, you won't know that that's still the best for you, you know, a week later or a month later. So experiment, experiment, experiment. You just have to use them and see what works. See generally what you like better. And then try the ones you didn't like and see if you like them any better. So it depends on you. You will change. As you change, what you get out of these will change. So there's a large selection of bass frequencies. They go from real high to 1024. Okay, for some people that's unpleasant. It's too high a sound, too intense. For some it's good. They like that. They go all the way down to the 32, which is about as low as you can possibly go without having people can't hear it. And you may want to turn your volume up on that. The ones that go that low, you may have to, if your bass range and hearing, and men tend to have a little stronger bass response in their hearing than women do. So the women tend to like the higher ones, the men tend to like the lower ones a little better. But so when you play the one with the lowest frequencies, you may have to crank the volume up just a bit because your hearing tends to fall off in that region. The with and without pink noise is just a preference. Pink noise doesn't add anything other than aesthetics or blocking out extraneous noise. Sometimes it's just a little something so that you don't hear the little ticks and things going on in your house and whatever, a little bass noise. For entrainment, that's entraining your brain waves. That's pushing your brain wave into a particular frequency. The change in bass frequency, I go from higher frequencies to lower frequencies always. And also I have the sliding binaural beat frequency from 10 to 4. So I start where you are. 10 hertz is alpha, just relaxed. That's how you start. Okay? And then over, I think, 6 minutes, I slide that down to the 4 hertz. So I give you a little time to adjust to that sound, kind of get used to it, and descend down to a lower theta state where you're brushing up against the boundary with delta, whereas that's unconscious. So I don't do that right away. I give you a little ramp into it. Everything changes from time to time. That's helpful because it keeps you able to focus on it. If it's just this constant tone that goes on and on, people tend to drift. and they just kind of drift off, and now they're, you know, working on something else. You know, they're back at the office, or they're doing some other kind of thing. And it's better if it changes up a little bit now and then, because it keeps your attention focused better. That's why the long strings of change in bass frequency seem to be effective. People like that because there was just a lot of different things going on. The difference doesn't bother you. It's just there. Don't let your intellect get wrapped around the changes. Just let them be. I have all of them running basically at a 4 hertz binaural beat, very close to it. I think the ones in August were probably just under 4 slightly, and these are just on 4. But I have some variations in that. So they'll run at a 4 hertz binaural beat. So we start at 10, 6 minutes, we ramp down to 4. Then every 6 minutes, I think, I get a short pulse, lasts about 30 seconds. It ramps up to 8 hertz binaural beat, back down to the 4. Okay, so I also have a pulse that every 6 minutes goes from the 4 hertz down to 2 hertz. This is in the November tapes, just in the November ones. Goes from the 4 hertz down to 2 hertz, which puts you real on the edge of delta, and then comes back up to the 4 hertz. Well, the reason I have these, so if each of these is every 6 minutes, then every 3 minutes something's happening, right? Every 6 minutes it goes up, every 6 minutes it goes down, and they're burst so that it goes up, comes down, 3 minutes later goes down, comes up, 3 minutes later goes up, comes down. Okay, so that's what's going on in those tapes. When they run up to the 8 hertz, that basically brings you back up into the low alpha to keep you from falling asleep. That's like the wake up a little bit. And when it runs you down to the 2, that drops you down into a little deeper state that's a little closer to the delta wave. Okay? But we don't stay there too long. Just enough to let you get down there, and then we go back up to the 4, and then if you start to doze off, we go back up to the 8. So this is happening. So you'll hear these changes all the time, all through it. There'll be changes. And there'll be you'll hear some harmonics also as you change the bass, as the bass frequencies change. And as the bass, because these frequencies interact with each other. And you'll hear different kind of things that are in there. So that's the structure. Okay, directions. How do you listen to this? The things that can give you the most trouble, as always, are your fears. Some people are afraid of losing consciousness. Some people are afraid of going out of body, that something's going to get them. Some people are afraid of what's called this pulsation state. Sometimes you'll feel your body start to vibrate, and that's normal. Okay, bodies vibrate down at this, they vibrate at about this binaural beat frequency. They vibrate around 4 hertz. And that vibration can be very subtle and very pleasant, and it can get very strong to where you feel like a flag, you know, flapping in a high wind. And it can be startling. You can also hear sounds, see things, feel things. Sometimes people feel like electric shocks. All sorts of things can happen right at that transition state. Okay, it kind of depends on you. Well, don't be afraid of any of that stuff. It's all fine. Just go with it. Don't analyze it. Don't worry about it. If you're a flag flapping in the wind, you won't tear apart. You won't break. You know, none of those things are going to happen to you. You're perfectly safe. Just go with it. Just experience it. And if it gets really, really violent almost, just let it be. Because what makes it violent and what makes it loud and what makes the electric shock mostly is your anxiety. That's mainly what feeds that. That's your anxiety. So if you just chill and let it be, then that will start to tone down a little bit as your anxiety tones down. But there's nothing to fear here. You're not going to get hurt with any of these. No judgment. Disengage the intellect. Listen at the being level. Don't think about what you're doing. Oh, am I there yet? Is this right? Oh, is that a pulsation state? I'm not quite sure. You know, let me see if I can feel. You know, if your mind's chattering like that, you're going to prevent it from working. Just be an experience. It'll be whatever it is. Next time, it'll probably be different. So don't have any expectations about what it's going to be like, but you're going to put this on, and now you're going to be an accomplished meditator and, you know, do all the wonderful things, and then that doesn't happen on the first try, so you're disappointed. Have no expectations whatsoever. Okay. You need to have a purpose. Okay. Now your purpose might be as simple as just want to experience it. And that may be your purpose. That's okay. And then you're not really interested in accomplishing anything other than just experiencing it. And that's good, because you'll find afterwards you're very relaxed. You have a little more energy. You get up afterwards. You feel good. You feel energetic. It's a very good thing to just do that. But if you want to use it to do other things, then you need to have a plan. And the time for planning is not while you're in a theta state. So if you wait till you're in the theta state and now you're thinking, oh, okay, now what do I want to do? You're not in a state to doing that. You're in a state to just experience. So if you expect to do anything else with it, like I talk about in these tapes, you can do the out of body, you can have conversations, you can work on your problems or issues or anything, you can communicate with people, people here in this reality, and other realities. You can do whatever the consciousness can do, because at this point, your consciousness now is no longer really so strongly attached to this reality frame. It's attached, okay, to whatever reality frame your intent takes it to. So you're kind of free at that point. But you need to know what you're going to do with that freedom before you start. And think about that and get that figured out first. What are you going to do? When you have that plan, you need to just have an intent. This is what I want to accomplish. These are the kind of things. Now be general. Don't be too specific. Just start out with a general, big level intent. And think about that. Put that out there. When I say that, just have it in your mind. Be conscious of what it is. And kind of keep that in your mind. Not intellectually. Keep it in your being level. So it's just always there. So I've just told you to have a goal, and now I'm going to tell you don't have any goals. I mean, you can have a goal in the sense of a bigger picture of what you want to do, but I don't want a goal that now you feel you have to accomplish. Because now that'll get you right back into your intellect, it'll get you back into anxiety, because what I wanted to do was this. I wanted to go have this conversation with my teenage child because I can't get through to him physically, but on the non-physical I can have a good talk with him. You see, and that's what I want to do. And then if that doesn't work out, or you get frustrated, and the frustration gets anxiety, and the whole thing is not going to work for you. So you don't push your goals. Your intent stays in the being level. Keep your intellect quiet on the sideline, and just let it happen the way it happens. You can work towards your goal, but the work is gently, not pushing, not demanding. Yeah, if you don't have an intent or a purpose thought out ahead of time, you tend to just drift around, which is okay. But if you want to use this to accomplish things, then you need to start out with something. Mastery lies in repetition, practice, just like anything else. First time you sit down to play the piano, you're not very good at it. Expect not to be very good at it the first time you do it. So when you're on to your 50th or 60th or 100th time, that's different. It'll be a totally different experience for you. Okay, directions. I think we've been over this. Simply listen, experience the sound. Don't judge or try to evaluate the value of your experience while you're having the experience. Okay. If you do, that will get in the way. Wait until the experience is over. Just have the experience. Whatever it is okay, and then you can judge it and evaluate it later, but not while you're having it. Now, that's easy, and everybody nods their head, and they say, well, sure, I can do that, but that's not the way we're wired. The way we're wired is as soon as something happens, our intellect jumps right in. starts to judge it, evaluate it. Is this right? Am I doing it right? Is this that thing he was talking about? Is this a vibrant? You know, and it is jabber, jabber, jabber in your head, and that gets in the way of doing it. So don't do that. Interact with whatever you see. If you see a picture, if you feel something, and it doesn't have to be visual, you can see with your feelings. Okay, you can feel the picture. I know that sounds like a mixed metaphor. It doesn't make sense, you know, but you can feel the picture too. You can get information. Go with it, even if it seems silly. Okay, so you're in this meditation state and you see, you know, a little pink bunny rabbit, you know, and you say, well, that's ridiculous. Well, that's you judging the value of what you're seeing. Whatever you see, go with it. See where it'll lead you. Connect to it. Communicate with it if you wish. Or just follow it. But connect. And don't judge whether pink bunny rabbits are of no value. You're looking for something else. Well, that's an expectation. What are you looking for? You know, a burning bush, you know, a tablet or something, with the wisdom that you need written on it, you know. You know, you may get a pink bunny rabbit, and you may go over toward that pink bunny rabbit, and it may disappear down a hole. Well, go down the hole with it, you see. Go where it goes. Do what it does. So the system will use all kinds of things to kind of call you out or get you, you know, to participate. So whatever it is you see, work with it. And if it turns out to be nothing, let it go. If it turns out to be something, fine. But don't judge it. If you ask big picture questions relevant to your purpose, you can do that as you go. Again, being level, not so much intellect. Avoid any belief or ego-driven questions. Okay. What you're going there to do has to do with, you know, your ego and your fears and your beliefs. It's probably not going to be, you know, a real great experience. It's not going to work out that well. But if you're going there with some kind of bigger picture idea or plan, then you'll actually get some help from the larger consciousness system. You'll get a boost. You'll get some interaction there. Okay. So again, mastery lies in repetition. All right.